Hey, it's Mr. Drogemeyer. Thanks for joining me for our Algebra 1 lesson videos. Today we're looking at lessons 6 and 7 from Unit 5, talking some more about linear functions. And in this particular lesson, we're going to be looking at how we can take some of those concepts that we've learned about in the prior lessons and apply them to a particular problem or particular situation. So let's just go ahead and jump in with this first question here. So it says function f of x has a slope of -1/2 and a y-intercept of 4. So explain how f of x could be used to find the x-intercept. Well, if we think about what we've learned, we learned that if we know the slope, we know the y-intercept, that we can write that equation or that function in slope-intercept form. So f of x and y can be used kind of interchangeably. F of x is the function notation that's used. Sometimes we'll just use the x and y. But so we said y equals mx plus b. We could think of that as f of x equals mx plus b. Our slope here, our m, is our -1/2 times x, and then plus our y-intercept of 4. So we could write this function knowing the slope and the y-intercept. So f of x equals -1/2 x, so the slope times x, plus that y-intercept of 4. So we want to know, how could we use that to find the x-intercept? Well, remember that y-intercept is the value when x is 0. So when x is 0, f of x, or y, is going to be 4. An x-intercept, we said, is going to be the value of x when f of x is 0. So we're trying to find what is that x value when y, or f of x, is what we're talking about here, equals 0. So if I wanted to find the x-intercept here, what I can do is I can set f of x equal to 0, because I know that whatever x is when f of x or y is 0, that's my x-intercept. And so now I can solve this equation for x. I just have the one variable now. So I would solve this by subtracting 4 from each side. So I want to isolate that variable. So this is -4. This would just leave me with -1/2 x. And so to solve for x, I want to undo that multiplication by -1/2, which I can do by dividing by -1/2. Dividing by -1/2 is the same as multiplying by -2. So to solve this here, I multiply by -2. X would equal 8 when f of x is 0. So that would be our x-intercept. And you could check your work here. If you plug 8 back in for x, -1/2 times 8 is -4. -4 plus 4 is 0. All right, so x-intercept, that's how we would find it with that information. Our second problem here says the value of the function g of x is 15 when x equals 1, and it's 9 when x equals 2. So explain how we could find the slope of that function. Well, we talked about slope as a rate of change, so we're going to take the difference between, we have 2 points here basically. We have 1, 15, we have 2, 9. So we're going to take the difference between the g of x values in those 2 points. So 15 minus 9, we're going to divide that by the difference between the x values. So 1 minus 2. And then 15 minus 9 is 6. 1 minus 2 is -1. So our slope of our function is going to be 6 divided by -1, which would be -6. So just finding that rate of change like we did in previous lessons. All right, and our last problem here, it says that a company buys new equipment that depreciates each year. Cost of the equipment is $25,000, and its value decreases each year by 2,500. They want us to create a graph that represents the value of the equipment in dollars as a function of the number of years after the purchase. So basically what that's telling us, a function of the number of years after the purchase. So we're going to have a function that's going to tell us the dollar amount. So f of x is going to be in dollars. X is going to represent the number of years after the purchase. Now they've told us that 25,000 is where we started. So when the number of years is 0, the price or the cost is 25,000. So think of that, that's our y-intercept, right? When x is 0, our cost is $25,000. So that's our y-intercept, and they've told us our rate of change or our slope. So it's decreasing by 2,500 each year. So our slope is negative 2,500. And so really they've given us what we need to write that function. We have a slope, we have a y-intercept. That's all we need to write our function. So 2,500, negative 2,500x plus that y-intercept of 25,000. That's our function. I went ahead and graphed this in Desmos. Let's take a look at what that graph looks like. Y-intercept of 25,000. It's decreasing by 2,500 each year. And so you can see that as we get, so after, I can't quite get right on the spot there, after 2 years, our cost or our value is 20,000. After 10 years, our value would be at 0. So you can see the graph of that using that information. All right, that's all I got for you today. Appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a great day.